Yeah, God is good. Man. Well, I want to share with you my sermon today, my message that God put in my heart. He gave me this message weeks ago, and I really felt that I was supposed to preach it on Easter. And the story that I'm going to share with you is not an Easter story at all. And so God just likes to put me on the cutting edge of doing crazy stuff, and so I'm just obedient. So the title of this is Death, a New Beginning. I have optional titles because I didn't want to use that one. The other ones were When Death Isn't the End, When Death Means Life. I was trying to make it sound better. When Death Produces Life, Going from Death to Life. You kind of get the gist of my heart today. There are times in our life when things happen and it's just death. We look around and it just seems like everything's falling apart. Let me read to you John chapter 12, verse 24. It says, I tell you the truth. Unless a kernel of wheat is planted in the soil and dies, it remains alone. But its death will produce many new kernels, a plentiful harvest of new life. And in a different translation, it says it this way, truly, truly. Don't you like it when somebody tells you, no, I'm going to tell you the truth now. Like everything else they've been saying is a bunch of lies, right? So we'll say thank you for finally getting to it. With Jesus, he says, truly, truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a seed. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. So I want to talk to you about death on Easter Sunday. I want to talk to you about death because I believe that most of us, you can just say all of us, we really have the wrong concept of the word death or of death. When someone dies and they pass away, we grieve, and we should. It's sad. But we have this idea that death is the end. Have you ever lost a job and thought, I'm never going to ever work again? But here you are, right? Have you ever broke a bone and thought, I'm never going to walk right again? See, there's these things in our life that are death. They're death experiences. They're death of this or death of that. But death is never the end. Death is just a changing of state. Water, H2O. Where's my water, by the way? I have so much stuff in my hands anyway. I got water over there. Throw me my water because I get thirsty. It's the only job in the world you can scream at people, drink water, and not share anybody else any and still get paid. It's a great gig. H2O. H2O is not always in a liquid form. Sometimes it's in a solid form, and sometimes it's in a gas form. But it's always H2O, right? If I remember science right, any teachers in the house? If I remember my science class right? Water is water no matter if it's a cloud, no matter if it's an ice cube, or no matter if it's in a liquid. It's always water. And you, my friend, are always alive. No matter if you're in heaven or hell, you're always alive. No matter if you're having a good day or a bad day, no matter if you're going through something that seems like death, it's not death. It's just maybe the end of that stage and the start of another. It's just the end of being an ice cube and now you're melted water. It's just the end of being a cloud and now you're rain. And so I just want to encourage you today that you might be going through an area of your life that just seems like the end. It just seems like I don't know what to go through. And maybe I'll just say this out there. This could just be for me. And that's cool too, because I need it too. So I don't know where you are in life. I don't know, I'm not a mind reader. I did see a magic 8-ball the other day at an antique store. Y'all remember the magic 8-ball? How cool are those? Wow. I picked it up and I turned it over and it consistently went to in between. It wouldn't float. I'd try to make it and it just, I don't know, that was annoying. Yeah. But when I'm standing there holding it, I realize that there's times recently in my life that I'm just like that magic 8-ball. I don't know. You ever get to those places where you just don't know? It's because of death. When you find you have an inability to make decisions, it's because of death. There's an area of death in your life. Sometimes lose a job, lose a spouse, have things happen and you're just like, I don't know what to do. Have you ever said that? I don't know what to do. That's those times that you're going through the death of something. go back and look at that text again, John chapter 12, verse 24. I tell you the truth. Unless a kernel of wheat is planted in the soil and dies. See, we all know you have to plant a seed. But we don't think about the fact it's not just planting the seed. It's the seed has to also die. Unless that happens, if it just said, because the thing is, if you just plant a seed in the soil and the seed doesn't die, it will just rot in the ground. But if you plant a seed in the soil and it dies, it will bring forth much fruit. You can plant an apple seed, and in that seed is not just a dormant apple tree, but in that seed is a dormant apple orchard. And inside of you is not just an area of sadness or death. Inside of you is the future for the greatest you you've ever seen. Inside of you is the days ahead. You know, it's Easter Sunday. Man, when Jesus died on the cross, the disciples scattered, man, they just took off like roaches when you turn the light on. They're just like, we are out of here. They just knew they were going to be next. They couldn't see. Jesus had said over and over, I'm going to die. I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to be crucified. He said it over. You would think they'd have a clue. It's kind of like us. You know, it's like when somebody tells you something and until it finally happens, you don't even see it. He kept saying over and over and over and over, I'm going to die. I'm going to the cross. And when it happened, they freaked out. And that's what we do. When things happen, we freak out. We lose our minds. We don't know what to do. But oh my goodness, if we could just hang on. If we could just hang on. Because you see, Jesus, if he hadn't died, we wouldn't know him today. He would have touched 12 men, and they would have died and have had no story to tell. But he died on a cross. And because of his death, and then he rose again, because of that, we are now alive again. He didn't just die like some of you, some of us and our friends, they just died. But he died having lived a life. He was that seed that was planted in the ground and died, but came back to life and produced a great harvest. We are still seeing that harvest today. What happened in the little corner of the room over here when people were praying a few minutes ago? That was a harvest of the seed that was planted 2,000 years ago of Jesus Christ. The thing that you felt when you walked in, some of it was that reluctancy to even go today. I know how you are. Like, I don't know. I just, you're all planned it. But then when it comes time to actually go on, you get that hindrance. I don't know. Well, that's because the devil doesn't want you to hear this word. That's because the devil wants to keep you in the tomb. He wants to keep you walking around as a zombie. But if you will ever let yourself finally die and say, God, I'm giving up. I'm not going to try to figure it out. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm just going to give it to you. And if you will do that, oh my goodness, the life will come out of you. This principle of death turning into life, we see it in the life of Lazarus. Lazarus died. Man, Jesus finally had to tell the disciples, yeah, he's dead. But he didn't stay dead, did he? He was 4 days in the tomb, but he came back to life. Joseph didn't have the physical death. He had the death I'm talking about to you today. Joseph was sold by his brothers. He was betrayed by his brothers. He was put in a pit. He became a slave. When he was a slave, he was accused of rape. He didn't rape her. He was accused of rape. He ends up in jail. In jail, he tells people their dreams. The dreams come true. One of them goes to the palace and forgets about Joseph. 2 years later, Joseph's still in jail. His whole life is a wreck. His dad thinks he's dead. His dad thinks he was eaten by wild animals because that's what his brother said. He's way older now. He's in jail, and then that day comes when he's resurrected. And he's not resurrected to go back and be the youngest brother of the shepherds. He's resurrected to be the oldest brother in the power and the anointing that he walks in, and he not only sets his brothers free from famine, but saves an entire nation, the nation of Egypt. And isn't it fitting that what he saved them with was seeds? He was a seed that went through prison, that went through false accusation, that lost everything he had, but he hung on to God. And when God brought him out, famine hit Egypt. And it was through Joseph's wisdom that the entire nation stayed. It was through Joseph's wisdom, through God, that the entire nation of Israel survived. They would have died. But God looked over and he saw, I need somebody. I need to have a volunteer. I need someone to go to jail. I need someone to be falsely accused. I need someone to be forgotten about. I need someone to feel like everybody's given up on you. I need someone who I can wreck your reputation, who I can completely destroy your life. And if you'll allow me to do that, I can save a nation through you. And nobody put their hand up, just like no one would here. And so God just had to look across and found the guy he knew he could trust. And his name was Joseph. We find the same death to life through Jesus. We know the story. He died on a cross, but he didn't stay dead. How many of you ever thought about, when you get those phone calls? I'm getting older now, so every now and then I get these phone calls, and they're wanting me to plan out my final resting place. That's the creepiest thing ever. I hadn't thought about this until now, but next time I get one of those calls, I'm going to tell them like Jesus. I'm going to say, do you have a grave that I can just borrow? I'm not going to need it forever. Let me get you one of your short-term tombstones. That's what I want. Anybody here want just a short-term tombstone? That's what I don't want to be dead forever, amen? But see, the reality is, I'm not going to be dead. It's just a place to store my body until the trump of the Lord sounds and my body regenerates and comes back and meets me in the air. And together I will be with my King and Lord forever, amen? Because what is dead is not really dead. Amen. That verse makes me think of flowers. I used to work at Russell Farm, and we were trying to get bluebonnets to reproduce, and my boss is just cheap, and so he's like, we just harvest the seeds off the bluebonnets, and we'll replant those. And so I didn't know if bluebonnets even had seeds. I don't know what I thought, but they do. Even those little red paintbrush, the Indian paintbrush, they have seeds. Did y'all know that? Yeah, well, y'all can buy seeds. You don't have to do what I did, but anyway, you can. But the pretty part of the flower is the flower, right? Nobody celebrates when the seeds come. Nobody celebrates the seed. We celebrate the flower. We're like, oh, the bluebonnets, y'all parking on the side of the freeway, causing accidents, got your little 2-year-old out and trampling down, our Texas flower, and you're just sitting on it with your baby because he's going to look cute getting a picture. I see y'all out there. I'm the guy honking, going, get out of the bluebonnets. That's what we do. We celebrate the flower, but you know what? We don't celebrate the seed time. We just celebrate the flower. When the flower dies, we just get the lawnmower and right over it. But if it's not for the time that the flower dies, you won't have the new harvest. It takes the flower to produce the seed, but then the seed has to fall in the ground, and the dead flower has to wilt and land on top of it, and it covers up the seed, and the seed is forgotten, and it's almost impossible to find. It's buried, but that seed dies, and you think it's gone. You think, oh, the bluebonnets are gone. You didn't even think about bluebonnets until you were driving down the road the other day, and boom, there they are. You see, they were there the whole time. Just because something's dead doesn't mean it's dead. It's just dormant. And there's something in you that's dormant. That's why you're experiencing death. There's some part of you that God is trying to resurrect. There's some part of you that He is trying to put new life in. He's trying to give you new hope, new joy. He's trying to restore your life to you. But the reality is, we want to stay in the graveyard. We just want to live there. We just like to be sad sometimes. Well, not you. I know not you, but it's that person next to you. We need to come to the realization. Maybe you need to say this. Maybe you need to write this down. I'm sorry I'm not in bloom right now. I'm just producing seeds. I'm sorry right now I'm not all pretty and blue and red. I'm sorry I'm not all chipper and happy, but God has taken me through a process. I'm sorry if I'm not blooming right now, but let me tell you what I am doing. I'm producing seeds. And someone in this room, many of you in this room are in that place that it seems like you don't know where to go. You don't know how to get up again. You don't even know how to breathe some days. Let me tell you something. You're about ready to bloom again. Don't look back and say, well, that bloom I had last year was so great. You're going to have a better bloom next year if you'll go through the process. We must see death as a seed being formed. We must see that death produces life. Death always produces life. Got you some notes from my journal, a little insight into Pastor Gary. I changed the I's to we's just to make it more easy to read. Sometimes my life takes a turn that I never saw coming. Sickness, loss of a job, divorce, death of a loved one. It's in these times that my dreams, our plans for the future, our goals can all come crashing down. We can find ourselves lost, confused, full of regret, full of remorse, scared, and unable to make decisions. We want to become reclusive, quiet. We get trapped in our own minds, depressed, shameful, just flat unwilling to go forward. In times like that, it seems if I could just go back to the way things were before, that I would be okay. But you see, going back is impossible. It is possible that the area of death that you are in or that I have been in will produce the greatest harvest you've ever had. You see, we can't stay here or we'll become the walking dead. If we stay here, we'll just become a zombie. Makes a great TV show, but it's not great in reality. People shoot you in the head. It's true. It's possible that the area of death that you're in will produce the greatest harvest you've ever had. It just depends on what you do in this dead time. John 10:10 says, I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Man, that just speaks so much. Because a lot of us, we're just the walking dead. We've experienced death and we're still there. And that's who Jesus he's talking to. He's saying, I come to give you life. And you're like, I got life, I'm breathing. Doesn't know what he's talking about. He knows you're breathing. He's calling you to breathe new life into that zombie part of you. He's calling and he's saying, I come to give you life and more life. Greater life, brighter life, bigger life, a more abundant life. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. You see, God rose from the grave so we could live, truly live. He didn't come from the grave and he comes knocking the stone out of the way, coming out, woohoo! And you're like, oh great, Jesus is here. No! He came that you would be like him. He came that you could live. He didn't just become alive so he could be alive and go, man, look how cool God is. He loves me more than you. It wasn't like the greatest show-off in the world when God said, you know what? He who was dead is now going to be alive. Jesus didn't come out of the room to be this cosmic thing that says, look what I can do. No. It was to say, look what I can do in you. You see, the Bible is story after story of extremism. It's the extreme. Has anybody ever been thrown in a lion's den? Not that I know of. I've never met them. I'm sure it's happened because it happened in the Bible. But we read those stories of the lion's den, and it's just so crazy. But what that tells you is if you can survive an actual physical lion's den, you can survive that spouse that's nipping at your heels. Come on, somebody. When cancer comes and it's trying to bite you and you can't seem to get away from it, if Daniel can survive a lion's den, you can survive cancer. Come on, somebody. He died so that you could live. The Bible is full of stories of just extremism. We're all going to die, but we're not going to be nailed on a cross, right? But Jesus was. To show you that no matter how you die, no matter what kind of death you've experienced, he says to you, I will never leave you or forsake you. But he left Jesus on the cross to die. And that's the extremism to say he even left him hanging on the cross. God the Father turned his back on his son, but he will never turn his back on you. It's the extremism to tell you no matter how far you've gone, no matter how bad you've messed up, no matter how regretful and shameful you are, it is not as bad as something in the Bible that I can find for you in about 5 seconds. Because that's the way it works. The devil, though, will tell us, but you just don't, you can't tell them because, they can't handle how bad you've been. Did you know bestiality was in the Bible before we ever thought about it here in America? You think you've done some bad things? Read the book. Your life pales in comparison. Your sin pales in comparison to what happened already before you. And I've got great news for you. If the cross worked for everybody before you, the cross will work for you, and it'll also work for every sin in your future and everything that's coming your way, every bit of death. The cross is the final word. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I want you to say this. Say, I must live. Say, we must live. It's going to come on the screen. It's going to say, we must live. But I want you to say, I must live. Say, I must live. We must pass through the death in our life. I must live. Are you with me? Let's try it again. We must pass through the death in our life. We must forgive others. Y'all getting it? We must forgive others. We must forgive ourselves. We must look ahead. Some of y'all falling asleep. This is a group exercise. It's so much more fun when y'all play along. Some of y'all just all prim and proper. They told me not to talk in church when I grew up. Well, you're not in that church. So say, I must live. Come on, talk to that dead part of you. Talk to that part that you've given up on. Talk to that part of you that you think you ain't never going to get past. Come on, say it with me. Say, I must live.
I must live.
There you go. You're getting it. Say, I must leave the past. There you go. Oh, I messed you up. Your part is, I must live. I messed you up. I know. This is why they don't do this in big churches. We're going to start over. We're going to get this. Say, I must live. We must pass through death in our life. We must forgive others. We must forgive ourselves. We must look ahead. We must go on. We must leave the past behind. We can't live in the graveyard. There you go. Give yourself a hand. Woo! Man, y'all nailed it 4 times in, but it's all right. So here's this story. The story starts off, we don't even know this man's name. He's the unnamed man in the tombs. I want you to just kind of peer in with me and just look into the darkness of the night. There's a man. We're standing on the beach. Behind us is the Sea of Galilee. As we journey up this little sandy dune and start getting into the rocks, up in the hill, there's caves. You can't really make them out because it's so dark. Just pitch black, and the wind is blowing, the rain is blowing, there's a storm. But just try to look through the storm with me. Try to look through the storm and try to make out that man. There's a man that lives in the tombs. You maybe can't make him out. He's real quick. He just darts in and out. The Bible says he's crazy. If you get where you can see him, maybe you can't find him with your eyes, but just listen. Close your eyes and just listen. You'll hear that shriek. You'll hear that groan and that moan and that angry growl. Now just open the mind, your eyes, the mind of your eye of your mind. I'll get it right in a minute. And look again. Do you see him standing there in the clearing? Through the flash of lightning, you see him standing there. He's looking at you. First, he's hard to even make out as a man. His hair is long and matted and muddy. You can't tell where his hair stops and his beard begins. He's covered in mud and dirt. You dare to get closer, and as you get closer, you see the scratches and the wounds and the sores all over his body. The wind's still blowing, the rain's still falling. There's that man. It's hard to even believe he's human. The position of his back and the way he walks. Who is he? That's my question. Who is this man? I see him there and I just want to know, who is he? He might be someone's father. Maybe he's someone's brother. For sure he's someone's son. He has a mother and a father somewhere. It's very possible he's got kids. I saw him in my dream the other day, and I was just so impressed to know who he was. And so just walk with me as we walk up to him, and I take my hand and I try to wipe the mud out of his face and push his hair back. And to my horror, it's me. It's me. It's my face. I don't even recognize me. How could it be? How could it be me? As quick as I recognize him, he shrieks and he runs away. I call out to him, "Come back!" Surely at one time he was a normal man, but now he doesn't even look human. As we stand here on this rugged beach of a shore looking up into these tombs and graves, and I notice that he runs away and he's trying to find out who he is as well. He rubs the names, the dirt off the markers, trying to find his name. You see, when you get stuck in a place of death, you forget who you are. I'm startled by the sound of keys. There's a rattling of keys. But then I'm right back watching him. Through the rain, through the darkness, he goes from tomb to tomb. Surely he's come to the conclusion he must already be dead. He must already have died, and this is somehow the torment of hell. I'm here somewhere. I know my home is here somewhere. I know this is where I belong. He wipes the name off a tombstone and it says hate. Maybe that's where I belong. He wipes the name off another one and it says pornography. Well, maybe that's where I belong. Another grave is titled lust. Well, that's me. He goes from stone to stone trying to find his home. Fearful, depressed, suicide, anxious, tormented. One of these places has to be my home, for I can find no way out. You know, like many of you, we have times in our life when we just get afraid. We just get stuck. We know we feel like we're forgotten. We feel like we're lost. We feel like there's no way out. And then there's that sound of the keys rattling again. It's definitely the sound keys. All of a sudden, in this story that I'm in, the rain stops. The wind stops. Come on, look up. There's the moon. The clouds have vanished immediately. The lightning is gone. The storm is completely left. And this man looks up. And the moment he looks up, down on the beach, he sees a man from Galilee. It's Jesus. Jesus steps off the boat, and the demons in this man scream out, "Leave me alone." But still, he recognizes Jesus. You know, even in your crazy, you can always recognize Jesus. Even when you lose your way, you can always recognize him. Sometimes it's hard to get to where he is, though, and so he comes to you. And in this story, he came through a storm. That rattling of keys is the rattling of the authority of Jesus Christ when he says to you today, "I'm here to set you free. I'm here to forever change your destiny. I'm here to forget about your past and take you to a new future because you are that seed that's been planted and it's time to grow." You see, even if you've never seen Jesus, your soul still knows its creator. I wrote in my notes when I was putting this together last week, he came through your storm. And then last night I scratched that out. He came through your storm for you. So a lot of times we see Jesus come through a storm for somebody else, but he's coming through your storm for you. The disciples were just with him on the boat. They got in a boat. He said, "We must go to the other side." They left from where he was preaching, and Jesus got in a boat, and he fell asleep in the boat, and the storm came, and the waves were coming, and everything was going on in the boat, and the disciples thought they were going to die, and they went and they woke up Jesus. They said, "Jesus, don't you care that we perish?" And he stood up, and he went to the front of the boat, and he said, "Peace, be still." And that's what he's saying to you today. Peace, be still. You see, when Jesus steps on the shore of that little town, he has the key to the grave. He has the key to death. He has the key to the chains that hold you back. He has the key to the thing that you feel like you can't let go of. He has the key to it. He has the key to unlock all the death around you and set you free. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 54 and 55, it says these words, "Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O grave, where is your sting?" The cross has the final say. Maybe you don't remember who you are. I'll remind you, mighty woman of God. Maybe you don't know who you are, mighty man of God. You don't have to keep wiping off tombstones. That's not where you live. You might have forgotten that you're a mother or a father. I'm here to remind you, great mama, great papa, you got people dependent on you. You might have forgot that you're a princess. You might have forgot that you're beautiful. You might have forgot that you're a sister or a brother. You might have forgotten that you're a worship leader, a pastor, a minister, a prayer warrior. You might have even forgot that you're somebody's friend. But today the cross has the final word. Jesus stepped off that boat. He set that man free. The next time we hear about that man is when the town comes out to see where the storm went, and they come out to the sea, and when they get there, they see the crazy man. And the Bible says he's sitting with Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. What the devil said was crazy and said couldn't be chained. God said, "I'm going to free you and put you in your right mind." Some of you got thoughts, you don't even know where they're coming from. Man, it's the devil. It's that place of death. But God is here to set you free. Josh, can I get you to come? So today I speak to the finished work God has produced in you and prepared for you from the foundation of the world. The thing that God has called you to, I speak to that today. That is what death is after. The calling in your life. Some of you don't know what your calling is. Some of you have no clue that God can even use you. But I'm here to speak to that dead part of your life and tell you who God has called you to be. That thing in your past, God says, I'm never going to turn my back on that. But the dead thing in your life that's trying to kill you and trying to destroy you, that's the thing that God is after. So what we're going to do today, before we close this service, is we're going to write some dead things. And we're going to put them on the cross. I don't know what tries to steal your life, but it ain't stealing mine anymore. I don't know what tries to wrap you up and hold you in a chain. You might can break free from the physical chain, but only God can set you free from the spiritual chain. Josh, this might take me a while. You can start playing. Maybe you're like me. Can't sleep when things aren't going well. You think you can just lay awake all night and worry and it'll fix it. Would you stand with me? I'm going to get out of the way here in just a second. But I want you to step forward as you feel led. Whatever area of death in your life that you want to nail to the cross, I want you to come and write it on a piece of paper and stick it up there. Because I got word for you. The cross has the final say. What is that thing that keeps holding you back? What's that thing that keeps getting in your way? Maybe it's a sin. Lust, pornography, getting drunk all the time, drug addiction. It's time to nail that death in your life to the cross and let God resurrect you. Maybe your struggle is depression, thoughts of suicide, fear, anxiety, grief, divorce, abandonment, rage and anger, resentment, grief, sadness, sorrow, just being stuck in the past. You know what? Maybe you just need to be brave like me. Not that I'm brave, but today I'm feeling bold. Maybe you just need to put the whole thing on the cross. Maybe you just need to put your whole life on the cross. Maybe it's the name a doctor gave you. Said you're a diabetic, you got ADD, cancer, glaucoma, endometriosis, heart disease, high blood pressure. What is it the doctor named you? What did he write on your tombstone? What did he say this is going to kill you? It's time to stick that on the cross. Dyslexia, sleep disorder, gallbladder disease. It's time to bury the dead things in our life. It's time to put them in the tomb with Jesus. Lord, in your mighty name, I just speak deliverance